Well, I think that nowadays there's no shortage of great games. There's even fewer games that leave an impact on me. Even fewer of those games have a DLC that leaves an impact on me. And only one of those games has a free DLC that does that. But God of War Ragnarok Valhalla is something that I've thought about every day since I completed it. The journey through the Norse saga is fundamentally a quest for redemption, to do better, to be better. A theme deeply resonating with anyone burdened by past transgressions. And trust me when I say, if you've ever looked back on a past self with disgust and contempt, wondering how could I do that? How could I be that way? Kratos here will be instantly recognizable for you. Kratos as a figure could once be synonymous with reckless vengeance and destruction, both in the real world and in the context of the world of the game. But as this DLC reminds us, his legacy has always been more than that. Its nuanced exploration of this theme makes it stand apart from anything that's come before it, even perhaps from the wider gaming landscape. Valhalla does not merely progress Kratos' story, it delves into the complexities of self-forgiveness and the arduous path of redemption, all while moving the story of the God of War series further, which is an amazing feat by Sony Santa Monica. This deeply personal journey shows that we cannot distance ourselves from our past selves. In fact, we cannot even fight our past selves, but we can accept that person and grow from the experience. Throughout the God of War series, we've seen Kratos literally rip apart several gods, do impossibly strong feats with minimal struggle, and yet it seems as the biggest challenge that he's faced so far, the hardest thing, is to face himself. At the start of the DLC, Kratos receives a summon to Valhalla from none other than Tyr, the actual Tyr, not this fake. This invitation marks the beginning of a series of trials, thoughtfully crafted by Tyr to impact a crucial life lesson on the Kratos, and Tyr is the perfect character to do this. Putting it simply, Kratos has a life experience that makes it very difficult for anyone else to relate to him. Who else could even remotely come close to offering Kratos genuine empathy? Who else has lived through the weight of Kratos' experiences? Tyr, just like Kratos, bears a history replete with battles, moral dilemmas, and the heavy burden of his decisions. And this shared experience with Kratos creates a profound empathetic link between them. These are two characters that actually get one another. In fact, they are probably the only two in the entire world that can truly relate to one another. Tyr's own journey through deceit and betrayal and loss that is often described in his legends throughout the main game mirrors that of Kratos' experiences, adding another layer of empathy and understanding. Tyr was also a victim of deception and manipulation, and can relate to Kratos' struggle against external forces and his battle with his past deeds. By the end of Ragnarok, Kratos has a large support system, from Freya to Atreus and Mimir and so on, and while they can feel for him, they cannot feel with him. Tyr is one of the few that probably can, making him the perfect mentor for Kratos through this journey. But it goes beyond being Kratos' mentor. I couldn't help but think of how it reminded me of CBT. No, not that CBT, get your mind out of the gutter, but I found the dialogue between Tyr and Kratos to mirror that of something found in cognitive behavioral therapy, a therapeutic approach used in the real world to alter detrimental thought patterns and behaviors. And these thought patterns are something that we see from Kratos here quite frequently on a loop. Tyr's methodical approach in these trials pushed Kratos to reevaluate and reshape his perception of the past and his identity, a process that is as much about mental and emotional transformation as it is about physical challenges. These trials compel Kratos to revisit and critically assess his past, particularly the choices driven by rage and vengeance, and through the power of Valhalla, physically revisit places like Greece, places that would be hurtful for him to return to. Kratos is not just someone mentally bound to the past. His body is a physical representation of his past experiences, wearing the ashes of his family, chains imprinted on his arm. His body is a physical symbol of that pain. I played around with the glam system a lot, but ultimately what I like the most is Kratos with no armor pieces at all, because I think it just felt the most fitting to have him completely bare and vulnerable here, and really emphasize this confrontation with himself. And this is the type of confrontation that requires requires an active engagement and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths. Kratos must confront the guilt and the anger and the sorrow tied to his past, emotions that he has tried over and over again to bury. And it's not just to Tyr, it's also to Mimir. While I think Kratos has opened up to Mimir about his past before, the way he opens up to Mimir here is one of the most honest ways that we've ever seen him do it. I think part of the reason here is that we got a lot of time with just Kratos and Mimir, and without Atreus. Oftentimes, Kratos can be the most censored version of himself around Atreus. Of course, any parent would filter themselves around their child, especially when talking about their regretful past, a past that he initially wanted to hide from Atreus. The situation here allows him to talk to Mimir, another adult, fully and unfiltered, diving into many of his painful and bitterly regretful mistakes, as well as Mimir opening up about his crush on Sigrun. This is a dynamic of these characters that you just do not get to see in the base game, and it allows you to walk away feeling even more like that these are real people. And to me, these are some of the most believable characters that video games have to offer. And speaking of confronting the past, the return of Helios was a fantastic way to bring this to the forefront. Though Helios here is merely a projection of Kratos' mind, he represents a voice that Kratos fears about the concept of his redemption. Helios thinks of him trying to be anything other than a monster is outright laughable. His comments aim specifically to twist the knife as deep as possible. But what I love the most about their interactions is that Kratos apologizes to Helios.
Of course, you're not the same man, right? Now you only get your friends killed through lack of foresight. Far easier to blame others that way, am I right?
I know you are a projection of the mind, but for what it is worth, the death I gave you was unjust.
Oh, how touching. Yeah, not actually worth the spittle it took to mumble that out.
It is pretty hard to imagine young Kratos reacting in this way, but this is the power of confronting your past, and through it, becoming a better man. Then there is the excellent decision to marry roguelike gameplay to this story. The roguelike gameplay is a brilliant metaphor for the psychological journey of self-improvement, as a loop where you fail each time, but you get a little bit further. Sometimes you die way before where you got last time, or sometimes you get much further, but in either case, the progress is never linear. It embodies the essential truth of personal growth. Each failure is not a setback, but a step forward, a crucial part of the learning curve. This gameplay loop, where players repeatedly face challenges, seemingly insurmountable odds, and then fail over and over again, mirrors the real-life process of striving for change. It underscores the idea that progress, no matter how incremental, is still progress. Each run through Valhalla, you're not only getting in-game skills and upgrades. Because the game is constantly encouraging you and forcing you to use a different build than you'd prefer in the base game, you end up learning mechanics and using builds that you would have never used in the base game. As a result, it's not only Kratos who's going through a journey of self-improvement through Valhalla. You, the player, by playing this DLC, are also going through your own self-improvement journey. It's something that's literally required in order to see the credits roll, making this not only a great story, but a powerful meta-narrative as well. As Kratos traverses trials set by Tyr, he encounters moments that trigger memories of the past, particularly those that are painful or guilt-ridden. This again also reminds me of CBT encouraging individuals to confront difficult memories and emotions. By revisiting those memories, Kratos gains a clearer understanding of his past and the consequences they have wrought by providing an opportunity for emotional healing and cognitive restructuring. Through doing this, he also learns that his past wasn't really as black and white as he thought it was. There was a lot of good in him, many times in which he did things in order to save people and help people, many times where he acted with the best intentions. I feel like this is very important because it's very easy for us to file things under good or bad, not realizing the wide spectrum of gray that many of our actions fall under. This allows Kratos to think about his past differently and accept that part of himself. This all climaxes after defeating Tyr in the last trial. We are led to a scene of young Kratos sitting on his throne.
You lost everything and everyone. You became... There is no forgiving you. You chose! Should I, this same man, should I sit, take, proclaim, lead, place myself in service? In service? Should I lose everything and everyone? There's to be enough left inside so that I do not become you. I do not know. But I have hope. You are cruel and arrogant and selfish. But you are more than that. You have always been more than what others saw.
And one of the most emotional moments I've ever seen in gaming. Up to this point, Kratos has spent a significant amount of time running from his past and his younger self. In this scene, Kratos both condemns and accepts himself. The realization that he can be a god of hope. Kratos has reframed his negative thoughts and perceptions of the past into new ones. He's realized that while he can condemn the man that he once was, he doesn't have to punish the man that he is now. The man that can still help people. The man that can still do things. Oftentimes when you feel guilt and shame for your own transgressions, it's easy to punish yourself as a way to remind yourself to never do those things again, to never be that person again. But those actions don't actually help any of the people that you've hurt. They're so often done because you feel like you've paid them back and amended your wrongs. This self-flogging never actually fixes the situation. And the enlightenment that Kratos experiences here is that yes, his past self chose, but indeed his future self can also choose. Tyr outlined it beautifully when he said that Kratos' legacy is much more complicated than him just having been evil. Though it's easy to hang on to the negative experiences that we've had, he's forgotten that there was a reason that he made the choices that he made, and that now he is also a man that knows better. But just as young Kratos had his choice and he made it, so too does our older, wiser, present Kratos. A god of war does not have to be a god of destruction. He can also be a god of hope.